Happy holidays, everybody. You've reached the No Name Cinema Society, the film review show that dares to dig just a little bit deeper. It is Thursday, December 28th, 2023, and we are kicking off our 73rd series of episodes, and we're doing it like we always do with our current feature. And tonight, that is Michael Mann's film Ferrari, released in theaters just last week. Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Betzler. I'm one of your hosts. I'm here in my home in Los Angeles, and I spent Christmas here, but I'll be spending New Year's in New York. So by the next time you see me in the next episode, I'll be back in New York. And as I said, this is our 73rd set of episodes. It's our final set of episodes for this, our 9th season, as we prepare for our finale episodes. We got our top 10 show coming, Oscar preview, and our 1998 in review. All those airs Oscar week, so those will come in March 2024. But for now, back to tonight's current feature show. Let me introduce my co-host. First, ladies and gentlemen, an obsessive perfectionist who insists on being the best and most loquacious film reviewer on the show, Jeopardy champion Jim Carroll is here.
Do I talk that much? Do I talk too much?
I'm just going to let the audience decide on that. As he's still talking, ladies and gentlemen, off camera. He's just rambling. And also with us, ladies and gentlemen, his fierce, loyal to a fault co-host who is on the edge of being fed up with Jim's transgressions and his long, opinionated monologues on movies, making her return to the show after a 5-year absence. Talia Rinko-Mostow is here.
Hi.
This is the schedule for this set of episodes, which is our 73rd ever. It's, of course, starting tonight with our review of Ferrari. This upcoming Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, will be our indie spotlight of the 2018 film Ben is Back. Next Thursday, January 4th, will be our classic movie discussion of the Italian neorealist film Bicycle Thieves. And on Monday, January 8th, will be our 57th Sound Off, in which we're going to have an announcement. Jim and I recast some of our films from 1947, and we'll be both be counting down top 5, what we're calling all in the family films, meaning films that feature a director and actor are related, or 2 actors are related, married, father, son, mother, daughter, etc., etc. And that top 5 is coming up on Monday, January 8th. You excited about that, Jim?
I am. I'm working on my list.
All right. You guys ready for a summary?
I'm ready.
Okay. Ferrari. With the Ferrari company in financial crisis, CEO Enzo Ferrari has to navigate winning the upcoming famous Mille Miglia race, along with convincing his estranged wife to sign over the company to his complete control, not to mention his future with his mistress and their illegitimate son. Jim, now you can prove that you don't talk so much. Can you summarize your feelings about this film in 1 sentence or less for your opening thoughts?
Sure. Meh. How's that?
Better. See, he's getting better after 73 episodes, ladies and gentlemen. Talia, 1 sentence or less.
I hated it.
Okay. And so that we're going to have some more fighting here on this show because I'm a little more positive. My opening thought is mixed results in pretty much all areas. But it sounds like I'm going to be the most positive because I've got a lot of good things to say about the film. And I'm going to start with the most positive, I think, and that is the screenplay. And I'm looking at this strictly from what I'm gathering is on the page. There's some execution issues that I have. To me, the overall script is exceptional, strangely not written by director Michael Mann, who is generally an expert at making dense information filmable and compelling. But that's exactly what this film does, smartly focusing on a small portion of Ferrari's life and not biting off more than it can chew. It's not the film's fault that some of these performances that we'll get to weren't able to get those scenes. But I thought looking at it as a roadmap for a story, a lot of these biopic-y kind of things, like the one that's likely to sweep the Oscars in a few months, they cover too much ground from my point of view. This did not. I appreciated the focus. I liked the ideas that were in the scenes. I liked a lot of the dialogue. I have some issues coming up with those sort of things. So there's a lot that I liked about the actual screenplay itself. The main hiccup I have with the screenplay is that while it only chooses a year of Ferrari's life to tell, the character arc in that year is not so clear. There's a lot that Ferrari could have been changing during this small time period. So what was the story exactly? A lot of things happen and many are compelling, but the story never really takes shape. Even if Ferrari's circumstances change, he doesn't seem to. He wins, he loses, he wins again and loses again, but the through line moves straight through like a flat line. Not that all characters need to complete an arc. History is full of great films where the character starts an arc and reverts but that's not what happened here. To the film and script's credit, unlike Talia, I was thoroughly interested throughout, but that only exacerbated the letdown when it was over, because by the time it was over, I felt like there wasn't enough significant change. So that's my hiccup with the script. So I've got good and bad things about the script. I'm scared to go to Talia, so I'll go to Jim first here.
I do agree with you. I like that it was a smaller, self-contained story. I thought there were a couple of things that it was not able to do, which was, even though it was a year of Ferrari's life, it was not clear that it was only a year in Ferrari's life. That time jumps.
That's interesting, because that feels like not a screenplay thing. You know, that feels like an execution, editing thing.
Sure.
Know?
The other problem with the screenplay too is it a movie about this company turmoil? Is it a movie about him and his wife and the troubles that they have? Is it a movie about him and his mistress and the son coming together? I feel like each of these threads is sort of explored. It seemed to be such an important year of his life that none of them were really explored thoroughly, and so it sort of flattens out all of them. Like, I never felt enough time to care about any particular line.
I agree. I thought it was doing a good job of balancing those things until nothing seemed to shift in any of those things. And so like, I was like interested. I'm like, oh my God, they're balancing these storylines. So it was unfulfilling. I have to give it credit for keeping me engaged for that long. And the other thing that I want to give it credit for and acknowledge this, the building blocks were all there. Like all the scenes, they all seem to be going towards something, like, you know, and the other thing that the script does that I really like, that maybe I didn't talk about enough, it's so rarely done, is it didn't lose sight of character. The actors may have lost sight of the character in some cases, but the script didn't. The script gave the actors the opportunity to have these character moments, and so there was an effort within the script to balance out this plot and character thing. I could see getting really excited about the screenplay on the page, and then a lot of these things about the execution.
I think for me, it was spikes of interest. I'd zone out for a scene and I'd come back and then I'd be interested. We'd go somewhere else and be like, okay. And then I'd come back and be like, this other storyline. Okay, now I'm interested in that storyline.
Like I could see like why each scene was included. So I had a different experience from your spikes. Like I didn't feel like anything was superfluous. I think there are things that were badly executed, but
Sure.
nothing felt out of place for the story that they seem to want to tell. And I like the idea of telling just this one year and the balance of plot and character. Like all those ideas seemed right. It seemed more of an execution issue to me. Talia, it is your floor.
No, I think I kind of agree with Jim. Like for a movie where things kept happening, I sort of felt like nothing happened.
In fairness, I was the first one that said
Sorry.
that. You just wanted to say I agree with Jim. Just to stick it in the little.
No. I agree with you too then. But I did have moments where I was interested again, and I thought this is the new storyline that I'm going to be more compelled by, except I wasn't really. Like I found myself same thing, sort of like zoning out after a few minutes, no matter which storyline we were going to. Other than the racing, I really was pretty invested in the racing, but if that's my favorite part, then I don't think I loved the screenplay because nobody was talking.
In fairness, screenplay is more than just people talking.
For sure. Some of the other issues that I felt were so big impacted that part of it too, that I'm not sure I can get past it.
I remember feeling like the dialogue is well written, not always performed. Like, you know, like we'll get to the actors. I remember feeling this sharp dichotomy between the dialogue working and the actors not. Do you feel like the dialogue was also bad, or do you feel like some of the acting you wouldn't be able to tell?
It was bad, but I don't think it was very exciting. I mean, I think that, oh gosh, right early on in the movie, he's talking to his dead son, right? And I just didn't believe it, and I don't think that was pure performance. It was
okay, because I do disagree. I do think that's pure performance.
I think I have more issue with performance than anything else in this movie, but I think that I did not. Oh gosh, I didn't feel like someone would actually be saying any of that in that way to their son, and I'm not sure performance could have changed that.
I was thinking a lot of these scenes, the scenes that he had with either his mistress or his wife, that like they weren't clever, they weren't overly clever, but sometimes overly clever dialogue bumps for me. It felt realistic. It felt like people realistically talking, like from the words, but then the actor wasn't delivering them.
But yeah, I didn't think the dialogue between him and his women was that strong.
There were definitely things that I liked in dialogue wise. I loved when Ferrari was talking to each racer, Miglia.
Just to remind you, like our procedure here is to sort of work with most positive and work our way down to the most negative. Before we get to performances, I do want to talk about direction a little bit. It is also almost like a split bag down the middle. Michael Mann has been one of my favorite filmmakers for a long time. So my excitement level was fairly high for this film, even though I've got no interest in cars or racing or Enzo Ferrari or Italy. It's been a long time since he's made a film. And to some degree, it's like he's forgotten how. Talia talked about the races. It seems like that would be right up his alley. He's a stylist, Michael Mann. You tend to like them. I actually thought the races weren't as interestingly shot in terms of the shot choices and the pace. There was a distance there that I was surprised by. Whereas an even worse film than this is a film called Gran Turismo that came out earlier this year. It was basically a kid's movie, but the racing scenes by Neil Blomkamp were actually really, really exciting. And the highlight of that film, which has bad everything else in it, With that said, Michael Mann's work really shines in all the interpersonal scenes that I guess I'm talking about with that I thought the dialogue worked as well. And what I mean by that is the shot choices. Why the director's not helping these actors more is that's a whole different thing, which we'll get to. The camera feels like it was in the right place and all the right times, and not always the most obvious place in terms of like understanding the beats of a scene and executing that. And if you look at his career, it's hard to argue that he's not a master of this. Historically, performances in his films have been extraordinary. I'm thinking about The Insider, Heat, even Manhunter. I'm sure there's many other examples, Last of the Mohicans. So even if the performances in his film hurt the overall product and believability, that dance between the blocking and the camera that I call scene work, that seemed to work for me. I can see inside his mind. I can see why he was making those choices, partially maybe why I was a little more invested in these guys. It was the thought that he gave to the beats of the scene and what shot size, what angle would best magnify that. There was a good balance between wides, mediums, closes, based on what was going on as each scene shifted and as the power dynamic shifted within scenes. That's the kind of thing I want young filmmakers to learn. Many of these scenes were well written, well blocked and shot, but in most cases, the performances didn't match what the camera's communicating, as I think all of us have sort of hinted at. And that's part of the direction, I grant you, guiding the performances. And that's the major failing of this film to me, which we'll all get to. But in the meantime, a lot of these other aspects of the direction were strong, which is why this is such a baffling case to me. In many scenes, this was working, that was working, and then what the hell was going on with some of these actors? It's a bizarre film in a way. Talia, you first this time.
No, I think the thing that made the racing scenes exciting for me is that we saw every single angle, very tight close-ups and very wide shots, and I felt like I got to see every part of the car and every part of the driver. I liked that I was watching from the front sometimes and from the back and other times. The only shot I didn't love was the sort of them zooming through the cypress trees, which I felt was a little trippy.
And also an artificial representation of space.
Sure. And I think unnecessary. Like, I understood how they must be feeling and how fast they were going through that without that. I really felt like I had a good sense of how terrifying that could be when they're on the shoulder and it was coming at me from every angle. And I really liked that. I really liked seeing all the different moments.
The note that I wrote down is like, Michael Mann seemed to have like a list of scenes that he really wanted to direct.
It's very similar to what I'm saying, a different way of saying it.
I agree with you. Michael Mann is a great director. And I think there were things that he was completely invested in, and I just don't know what the rest of it was.
I'm shocked that the performances aren't stronger given in Michael Mann. It's almost like he forgot that aspect of his craft because, like, historically, there's some great work. I think I started saying it's a mixed bag. Yeah. Like every element was a mixed bag, and I also said 75% of the performances were not great. But as we do, we like to start with the positive. So I do want to call out a strangely really good performance in the middle of this movie of performances that are not good at all. In spite of all my comments about acting, there is an award-worthy performance in this film. Penelope Cruz, to me, makes Laura work really well. One of the better female characters in the Mann canon, because if there's a hole in Michael Mann's films is that his female characters are historically very, very weak. Lives up to his surname, masculine kind of director. She uses Mann's close-ups to communicate a great deal of pain, betrayal, and frustration in spite of the dialogue or without dialogue in many cases. I thought she was terrific, almost in a whole different movie. Jim?
I liked her in this movie. I'm sorry she didn't get more. If anything hamstrung her performance, it's that she ended up relegated into a lot of scenes that ended with her angry or
felt appropriate. Like she had every right to be angry, you know.
not taking away from her justification of being angry, because there was a lot there. But but if all we're seeing is her end up in a rage mode, it feels samey same. There were scenes where she had nuance. You could see her just how smart and how effective she was. And I wish we saw one or two more scenes with that, like a quiet drive intensity, like just how in control and or how much she had to control herself.
You know, so slight disagreement in the sense that, like, from a script point of view, like the amount of scenes felt just right. But I also feel like so it sounds like because she was so good, you wanted to see more of her. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Which I get from like an audience point of view, but also from, like, you know, looking behind the scenes from a craft point of view, like the amount of scenes felt just right. And in terms of her rage, I felt what I think was so strong about the performance is I just felt like I could understand the reason for the rage, the years of frustration. You know, I understood it all in the short amount of scenes that she had. And it was enough. It wasn't like a Judi Dench 8-minute performance or anything like that. She was one of the actors that lived her backstory, or they made her backstory clear without us needing a lot of information. We could infer based on what she was doing as an actor, my opinion. And so we'll let Talia talk about this now.
No, I was going to say, I don't think she was bad, but I didn't actually feel particularly moved by her. But I do think that's also because I felt that the performance was very one note. But in that sense, I agree. I don't think she was given scenes that were anything other than I'm very sad and I'm very angry. I don't think you can make her look dowdy. And I do think there was an effort to make her look that way. And so I felt confused by that casting choice as well. But I also have a sort of Michael Mann doesn't do women well feeling. They're not the people he's telling the stories of. It didn't feel very strong to me because I actually don't think she was given much.
I definitely disagree with the comment that it's a one-note performance. It's like she's in a whole different movie because she's actually, to me, I'm seeing layers from what she's doing.
If the other performances were better, I don't think hers would have stood out as being so great. I think the only reason she stands out is because the others were so horrible that she's the one thing.
I disagree. Yeah, no, I completely disagree with that. Now we will segue. For years, I've been all alone on Adam Driver Hater Island, and for some reason audiences seem to forgive the similarly bad accent in House of Gucci. But now I'd like to invite Jim and Talia to join me on Adam Driver Hater Island, because to me the fatal flaw of this movie is indeed Adam Driver here. He's so unbelievable to me as Enzo Ferrari that it makes the whole exercise almost laughable, in spite of some of the other strong work I saw in writing and filmmaking. Both aspects of the performance, the technical in the aforementioned accent or his gait, and the emotional, neither was believable. So much going on with his character, but so little effectively communicated what was behind his obsessive need to succeed. Did he love his mistress or his son or his illegitimate son? He stood at that grave of his eldest son, but that pain and grief was not palpable, for example. I didn't believe anything, and completely disconnected from the main character of this movie. And so I imagine at last Talia and I are going to have something to agree on.
The performance was horrible, but also I just was really stuck on the fact that why not just cast someone who's 60 or closer to? I have a thing, I don't like old people makeup in general, and I don't understand the choice. And then I think he just did a rough job with the whole thing from there.
It felt like a business choice, which I was going to get to that a little later, but for sure.
I did not like him in House of Gucci. So I've been on the island for a while.
You must have been on the other side of the island. I didn't see you there at all.
I mean, I think it starts with the accent for me. Truly, I can't think of a performance I've liked less in a long time.
I'm also, Jonathan, I'm a longtime resident of that island. You have just not been coming to the meetings.
Was there meetings? Oh my God, I didn't realize there were meetings. This is an Oscar-nominated actor, and I didn't know there were meetings for the Hater Island. Gosh, I would love to go to those meetings.
No, I mean, literally, I used to watch, Vic would watch Girls, and I would watch Girls with Vic, and I'd say, I don't get it.
I can't think of a more overrated performer. And I consider myself a pretty good judge of acting talents. Part of my job as a director. Marriage Story was a little stronger, I admit that, but everything else, I don't see it at all.
I will say Marriage Story is probably the best that I've seen him.
I agree.
But
I agree on something, everybody.
I love Marriage Story, but that's also because of all the company moments, and I love company. So anyway, and divorce.
She loves divorce, Jim.
How do I follow that? I literally spent the movie trying to figure out why an actor would make these choices. What was he trying to do? And I have a feeling the idea in his head was that Enzo is so tight buttoned. He's got such a poker face. He can't open up that window to anybody. There has to be tension in that choice. We never saw the weight of the choice. So you end up with a character that just seems like cardboard. It's a cutout of a character.
You talked about the weight, but I mean, and seriously, let's talk about the weight of a 60-year-old person.
Yeah.
You know, like he didn't walk or talk or move like a 60-year-old person. There's all aspects of the performance that he missed on. To make matters worse, Shailene Woodley also struggled to me. And she's an actress we've said really nice things about on this show in the past. But to me, displays the limitations of her range here. To be honest, I'm surprised Mann cast either of them. You'd think that he'd have the clout to do whatever he wants, and he seems the type to have gone with appropriate actors, both in terms of nationality and age. So I wonder if maybe he's lost some of that clout and he felt this desperate need to get back in the game by succumbing to studio demands or getting the budget that he wanted. He decided he needed to cast some more namey people instead of an appropriate Italian actor and actress. I love Shailene Woodley, and a lot of the films we've talked about on this show, we've talked about Spectacular Now, we've talked about the Divergent series. She struggled to me too here, Talia.
Yeah, but I don't think she was given much at all. I mean, I don't think Penelope Cruz was given much, and I think she was given even less ultimately. She was, it's just a character I've seen so many times before, and I don't think she was given anything original. I think it was a fine performance. It didn't take me out, but I also wondered, again, why not pick Italian actors for this?
But I continue to disagree that there's not a lot there. I definitely saw moments where I felt like there was something there that she was not able to communicate believably. Like I saw what the scene was going for. To use a baseball reference, I could see her just like completely whiffing. You know, like it was a curveball, a hanging curveball, and she just missed it. Like there was a number of cases like that, and I'm less surprised when Adam Driver, strikes out. But when Shailene Woodley strikes out, I'm like, oh, that's something. That's strange to me. Jim, Shailene Woodley.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't really do anything for me either. Endemic to the larger production, like this feels flat and disaffected. And again, not as much of an accent, but
did she try an accent? I don't recall any attempt at an accent.
It's lighter. Like didn't commit the way that Adam Driver did. Still there in like a little bit. Made me confused about if Adam Driver has a thick Italian accent and she has a less Italian accent. Is she not Italian?
I was definitely wondering, and they're like, no, he's Italian.
Like, it feels like everybody just showed up with like, you know what? Do what you want.
The main takeaway for me is potential. I saw the bones of something interesting, something strong, and something completely missed. So maybe Talia's right in the sense that should be almost more hated than something that didn't have this much potential.
But I guess my question is, who is the antagonist? Is Enzo his own antagonist?
Yes, and I think that's compelling.
I don't think it worked, though.
I don't think it worked because I didn't believe Enzo Ferrari as a person, as portrayed by Adam Driver. I like this idea that he is his own worst enemy. I like this inner conflict that's going on within him. What is more important to him? What's he going to choose? Like that's, and that's why I thought all three of these storylines that you referenced earlier, Jim, were going to come together. You know what I mean?
You're right. I think the intention is Enzo is his own antagonist. I think the movie that we're seeing keeps wanting to present Enzo as the guy is supposed to be holding it all together. But I don't think we're all that different.
That's how you use the word hate. I was definitely into it in the middle of it, and then almost heartbroken when it ended with a meh. You had spikes, so you're definitely in the middle. We're agreeing more than we're disagreeing. It's the weight that we're putting on these things that's the major difference.
It felt like I was watching a movie that didn't care that I was watching it, that it had an audience.
That brings us to a segment that I don't think we were doing when Talia was around. We might have been in a very cursory manner. This is what we call the T word. And this is where we talk about the themes of film, where we try to sum it all up. Now that we've talked about the nuts and bolts of it. As it started when we had Davey on the show, he used to not like to talk about themes. He said it made watching the films feel like homework. The rest of the audience liked to talk about the theme, so we had to dance around it, called it the T word. Segment was born. The aforementioned lack of arc makes the thematic analysis a little more challenging. You know what? At one point in the movie, I was wondering about work-life balance, but that's really not much of the conflict here. It's about some of his private secrets and the difficult relationship with his wife because of her connection to the business, but it's hard to have much sympathy in that storyline in either direction. Honestly, my main takeaway, intentional or not, is that automobiles are dangerous machines. Obviously, more so in those extreme circumstances, but honestly, just in regular life. The very thought that we rely so much on these death traps is kind of sobering. Add to that the general acceptance of the occupation as being life-threatening, but not to Ferrari himself, kind of makes you question the way the whole industry worked. So then what I wound up with is a question of business and capitalism. The race is not about crossing the checkered finish line, but that's just means to an end, the end being cold, hard cash. Who makes the most? That does seem to be the consistent thread for many of the characters, but only marginally so. And so while the story is interesting enough, even that exploration ultimately failed. And so finally, if I'm being really generous, I might suggest there is some threads of ideas about the burden of leadership. Enzo Ferrari's failure as a racer led to his burning desire to succeed as a manufacturer, which led to an empire. But at what cost? His marriage, his son, his soul. Again, the poor performance and the lack of character journey failed to really materialize this concept, but I can see the root of that idea between the lines. So my takeaways from the film, guys, I was thinking about work-life balance. I think it failed. I think a lot about automobiles when I walked away. I was also thinking about business and capitalism and leadership. Talia, any of those ideas resonate with you?
I can see all the ways that you would put those in there. I think the problem is I didn't feel like he was putting those in there. I didn't feel like the movie was giving me enough. I believe that you're doing hard work to make sense of a movie that doesn't make sense. I don't know. The theme to me felt like women get in the way.
Oh, that's what you take away. You know, in a strange way, not in the way you intended, but in a strange way that talks about my theme of leadership in the sense that there was a burden on him to sort of balance those aspects of his life, and he felt responsibility to the company, but also felt responsibility to women in his life. But honestly, also if he didn't cheat on his wife, maybe he would feel less of a burden. I want Jim and Talia to know I'd be satisfied with Penelope Cruz. I would be okay.
I think that's the theme they're trying to deliver: is can this man hold so much that is on his shoulders? But I think if it had done more work with the themes you're talking about, it would have been a more successful movie. I just don't think they were actually.
I talked about the potential of the film, and so I think the real take-home point here is I should have directed this film. I mean, I think that's what we really landed at here.
I mean, was there a book? Is this based on a book?
It is. Yeah.
This chapter of this book done entirely differently with other people, I think in all the positions could have been very successful.
Potential. Jim, I gave a lot of theme options there.
Yeah.
Anything you want to focus on?
The intent was, and I believe the theme is, Enzo Ferrari lives his life like he drives in the races. Recklessly to the edge in every single relationship. He's constantly pushing to see just how far he can get to get the results that he needs, and hoping that this time does not end in gross tragedy that forces him to give up everything.
If anybody ever brings up an alternative theme, I'm usually like, no. Or it's usually like sort of tangentially related to the ones I present. And maybe this speaks to the muddles of the film. But Jim, I think you're right. For the first time, I don't think you've ever said anything more intelligent in your life. And this is a guy who won Jeopardy, ladies and gentlemen, on television. I think you're right in the sense that like that seemed, and that maybe where maybe I got this idea that automobiles are dangerous. The intent was the danger of living life recklessly or on the edge, and but I would say, like, I can see that now, like, sort of backtracking through my mind, I can see that. But that feels, if that's the case, and it feels like it probably is, that feels like the thematic exploration is even more of a failure. I walked away with feeling like automobiles are wonky instead of looking at it as a metaphor for the way he lived his life. And I can see that as being what it wanted to be about. Let's wrap things up. So we're going to be back on Tuesday when we'll be back when it will be officially 2024. New Year's Day is Monday, so when we normally do our Indie Spotlight. So we're going to do Indie Spotlight on Tuesday, January 2nd, for a film that made 2 of our top 10s in 2018. The film is Ben is Back, starring Julia Roberts as our Indie Spotlight. And that's coming up in just a few days. Jim and Talia, why don't you say goodbye to the audience?
Goodbye, audience.
Goodbye, audience. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting of the No Name Cinema Society is adjourned. Happy New Year!